Erev Tov Rabotai, we're continuing with our Mishna Yomi Mesachet Kilayim. We're up to Perek Bet Mishnah Alayev. We learned in yesterday's Mishnah that planting two different kinds of seeds together is forbidden as Kilayim. However, the Mishnah today is going to teach us when large amounts of seeds are planted, a lot of times you might have that they contain some seeds of another kind. Now, midoraita, from the Torah's perspective, you are allowed to plant these seeds together, provided that you do not have any kavanah, any intent to grow the two kinds. And the reason for this, Mifalshim explain, is because of the concept of bitul berov, which we know means nullification in the majority, meaning when you have a majority and a minority, it permits the minority species. Now, it's very natural that Mifalshim explain for a certain amount of foreign seeds, meaning other seeds, to become mixed into a large amount of seed of one kind. Now, since these seeds are small and difficult to separate, the Torah does not require the farmer to remove the minority seed, but allow him to plant the mixture, provided he doesn't have kavanah to grow the second species. And the Mifalshim continue to say that when crops are put away in storage, it's very common for some foreign seeds to get mixed in what was left in the storage area from the previous occasions. Likewise, in a field planted with a single crop, it's common for at least a few foreign plants to end up growing in the field and for their seeds to get mixed in with the others. Then you have a case where the seeds are taken from the harvest to plant next year's crop, that they have some of the mixture. Again, as long as you don't have any kavanah to plant them together, the Torah says that it would be allowed because of bitul berov. However, the Chachamim limited the amount of the foreign seeds that can be present, because if there's going to be too much seed of a second kind, people are going to think that you deliberately, purposely added it to grow the two kinds together, which is a sul. Therefore, the Chachamim set a limit. And this is what our Mishnah is going to teach us today, this rule. Kol se'ah sheyesh ba rova mimin acher yima'et. Now, Rabotai, just as a hakdama, a se'ah, it's a volume where we speak about a measure, it contains 6 cobs or 24 quarter cobs. Now, a quarter cob is the volume of 6 eggs. So now, the Mishnah tells us any seed, any se'ah of seed, kol se'ah, any se'ah of seed, in which there is a quarter cob of a different kind of seed, the Tana Kama says, yima'et. The farmer must reduce the other kind to less than a quarter cob before he can plant the seed. And the Mifalshim explained to us that if a se'ah of seed contains within it a quarter cob or more of a different kind of seed, it means in math terms that you have 1/24 of the container of seed is made up of foreign seed, a different type. This is considered too high of a percentage, and it is assumed to plant the mixture until the minority seed is reduced to less than 1/24 of the mixture. This can be done either by removing some of the minority seed from the majority, from the mixture, or adding more majority seed to make it over 1/24. Rabbi Yossi Omer Yavor. However, Rabbi Yossi says, once you begin reducing the other kind, you have to remove it entirely. And the Rab explains to us that according to Rabbi Yossi, if a person's going to begin removing the minority seed, and then he stops when he reduces it to less than 1/24 of the mixture, it looks like he wants to keep the rest of the foreign seed and plant Kilayim. So Rabbi Yossi says to avoid this impression, you have to, once you remove some of the minority seed, you have to continue and remove all of it. However, even Rabbi Yossi agrees that if the minority kind was less than 1/24 of the mixture to begin with, you don't have to remove anything. It's only once it's more than 1/24 that you have to start removing, that you have to take it all out. Otherwise, it looks like you want to leave the rest in, and it looks like you're planting Kilayim. Now, the Mishnah is going to bring now a machloket regarding the quarter cob of foreign seed that makes this mixture asur. Ben mimin echad, ben mishne minin. The Tana Kama says it makes no difference whether the quarter cob of the foreign seed is made up of one kind of seed or 2 or more kinds. Either way, you have to reduce the total amount of the foreign seed to less than a quarter cob before you can plant the se'ah of seed. Now, the Mifalshim explain, as long as there is a total of a quarter cob of other kinds of seed in the mixture, you have to reduce them to less than a quarter cob according to the Tana Kama, or remove them entirely according to Rabbi Yossi. That is the first opinion brought in the Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon says, Lo amru ela mimin echad. The only time this prohibition of leaving a quarter cob of different seed was said is only if the entire quarter cob is made up of one kind. However, Rabbi Shimon says, if the quarter cob is made up of two different kinds of foreign seed, you do not have to reduce the foreign seed. But the sages argue on both the Tanna Kamma and Rabbi Shimon, and they say, Kol shu kilayim b'se'ah mitztaref lerova. Any minority species that is kilayim with the majority of the se'ah combines with other types of foreign seed to make up the quarter cob that prohibits planting the mixture. Now the Mefarshim explained to us that a species that is not kilayim with the majority does not count towards the quarter cob. And they're going to give us an example now. The sages, if you look at the Rav, he tries to explain what the difference between the Chachamim and the Tanna Kamma is. The Chachamim agree with the first Tana that two different species can combine to prohibit the mixture. But they add one more condition. Both species must be of a type that is considered kilayim with the majority species. If only one of the minority species is kilayim with the majority, but the other one is not, the se'ah can be planted without reducing the amount of the minority seed. And the Rav gives us an example. If a se'ah of barley contained an eighth of a cob of oats and an eighth of a cob of spelt, you are allowed to plant the mixture without reducing the amount of oats and spelt seed, because only the spelt is kilayim with barley, but the oats are not, like we said earlier in Perek Aleph, Mishna Aleph. According to the first Tana, he disagrees. He says that even if only one of the two minority species is kilayim with the majority, like the spelt in the case we just said, the se'ah may not be planted. Why? Because people may think that such a large amount of different kinds of seeds must have been added deliberately. Again, Rabotai, in the first case of the Mishnah, what we spoke about, if it has a rov of a min acher, you have to reduce. Rabbi Yossi said you have to take it all completely out. The halakha does not follow Rabbi Yossi, and in this case here, the halakha follows the sages that two different species can combine to prohibit the mixture, provided that both species are kilayim with the majority species. That is the end, Rabotai, of Mishnah Aleph. Mishnah Bet now is going to continue discussing the previous Mishnah's rule that a quarter cob of foreign seed per se'ah prohibits the mixture. B'med dvarim amurim. What types of mixtures were we talking about? Tvua b'tvua, in regard to grain that became mixed in grain. The kitnit b'kitnit, or kitnit that became mixed with kitnit. Now, Rabotai, tvua, grain, refers to, wheat, barley, spelt, oat, and rye. The term kitnit refers to other plants of seeds which are eaten, for example, beans, peas, rice, sesame, etc. Tvua b'kitnit, or grain that became mixed in kitnit, the kitnit b'tvua, or kitnit that became mixed in the grain. Basically, it applies to mixtures of the type of seeds that are eaten. Be'emet amru, the Mishnah says, however, in truth, meaning the Mefarshim tell us, it means that the following statement is going to be undisputed. Be'emet amru, in truth they said, if an edible seeds of garden plants became mixed with grain or kitnit seed. Now the Toshim explain, what does it mean garden plants? It refers to vegetables like radishes, turnips, garlic, onion, which have an edible part, but the seeds themselves are not edible. In contrast to grain and beans, in which the edible part is the seed itself. So again, if inedible seeds of garden plants became mixed with grain or kitnit seeds, the garden seeds combine to prohibit planting the mixed seeds, even with less than a quarter cob, as long as there is enough garden seed in the mixture to plant 1/24 of what is usually planted in that kind of seed in a bet se'ah. Now, we have to explain what exactly is going on here. Now, a bet se'ah is the area in which a person plants a se'ah of wheat seeds, which measures 50 by 50 amot, 50 amot by 50 amot. However, garden seeds are much smaller than grains and beans, but they produce large plants. So for this reason, a bet se'ah of land is not planted with the se'ah of garden seeds, but just with the quarter se'ah of garden seed. For example, the exact amount depends on the type of the garden plant. So the Mishnah is teaching us that if you have 1/24 of the amount of garden seed that would be planted in a bet se'ah in the mixture, it forbids planting the mixture until it's reduced. So in the example that we said, instead of a quarter cob, 1/24 of the se'ah, being the amount that prohibits, a 16th of a kav, 196th of the se'ah of garden seeds would already prohibit the mixture. Now, the reason we have this different category of the inedible garden seeds is because this small amount of seed will end up growing plants that take up 1/24th of the field. So this much foreign growth gives the impression that it was planted with the kavanah, with the purpose of growing the two species. Therefore, the Chachamim said you are not allowed to do this. The measure of a quarter kav of foreign seeds was said only for grain and kitniot, since these species grow to take up exactly the same amount of space. Therefore, the Chachamim fixed the amount for all of them as a quarter kav per se'ah of seed. Now, the Mifarshim point out, look at the Rambam, even different species of garden plant seeds combined to make up the 1/24th, that forbids the mixture, which really, in essence, we said, is 1/96th of a se'ah. Because again, you put less since they grow bigger. Rabbi Shimon says, Kishem shamru la'achmir, just like the Chachamim said this rule about a garden seed to be strict, meaning you can't plant a mixture containing even less than a quarter kav of garden seeds. They also said it regarding to be lenient. For example, flax seed that became mixed in grain combines to prohibit the mixture only when it comes to 1/24th of what's usually planted of flaxseed in a bet se'ah, even though in this case it's more than a quarter kav, the exact opposite of what we just said. Chachamim were strict by the inedible garden seeds that even less than a quarter kav is asur, because you plant less than a quarter kav to take up a quarter kav of space. Rabbi Shimon says it applies also to be lenient, meaning flaxseed that was mixed in grain, it's only going to be oser if it's 1/24th, even though it comes out to more than a quarter kav. Now, the Mepharshim point out to us that the amount of flaxseed that normally you need to plant in a bet se'ah, 50 by 50 amot, is 3 se'ah. 3 times the amount of wheat that would have been planted there. So 1/24th of the amount of flax planted in a bet se'ah is 3/4 of a kav instead of 1/4. So flaxseed that became mixed in grain does not prohibit planting the mixture unless there is 3/4 of a kav of flaxseed inside of it. Much more lenient. Now, the Mishnah's wording implies that the Tana Kama does not accept this ruling, the way it said it, Rabbi Shimon Omer. So the Mifarshim explained that the Tana Kama would say that the 1/24th of what is usually planted rule for the garden seeds applies only as long as this comes to less than a quarter kav. When it comes to more than a quarter kav, the law would stay the same, that even a quarter kav forbids the mixture. That is how the Mifarshim would learn the opinion of the Tana Kama. That is the end of today's Mishna Yomi, Rabotai. Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen v'Amen.